Hey everyone! Have you ever heard of a group called the Jutes? They were a tribe from Northern Europe who played a big role in the early history of England. You probably don't hear about them as much as the Romans or Vikings, but their story is just as exciting. Let's go way back in time, about 1,500 years, to a period when the Romans had just packed up and left Britain, and everything was in chaos. Cities were falling apart, people were scared, and there was no strong government left to keep things in order. At that time, life around the North Sea was really wild. The sea wasn't just a body of water, it was more like a superhighway for ships. Boats carried traders, warriors, travelers, and families looking for a better life. The Jutes were one of many groups living around that area. They came from the Jutland Peninsula, which today is part of Denmark. But around 200 AD, new groups like the Danes started invading the Jutes land. That caused many of them to leave. Some moved to a coastal area called Frisia, and from there, some set sail for Britain, hoping to start fresh in a new land. Their story in Britain kicks off around the year 449. That's when two Jute brothers named Hengist and Horsa got invited by a British leader named Vortigern. Vortigern needed help fighting off enemies like the Picts from the north. Hengist and Horsa landed at a place called Ebbsfleet, helped win battles, and became heroes. Their success made people back home excited, and more Jutes, and also Saxons and Angles, started sailing over to Britain. When the Jutes got there, they didn't just act like invaders. They became settlers. They started new lives in places like Kent, the Isle of Wight, and parts of Hampshire. They didn't kick out the people already living there. Instead, they lived alongside them. They used old Roman roads, traveled on rivers, and traded goods with others. Archaeologists have found cool things like broken ship parts and jewelry in the ground. These finds show us how the Jutes lived, and how they mixed their traditions with what the Romans had left behind. In Kent, the Jutes built a strong community. The city of Canterbury, which used to be a Roman town, became a center for Jute life. They had a special system for passing down land called gavelkind. Most places at the time gave all the land to the oldest son. But under gavelkind, every son got a share. This system was so strong in Kent that it lasted until the 1900s, way after the Jutes were gone. But things didn't stay peaceful forever. Nearby kingdoms like Mercia and Wessex wanted more land and power. In 676, King Athelred of Mercia led an army into Kent and even destroyed churches. A few years later, in the 680s, another king named Cedwalla from Wessex attacked the Jutes in the Isle of Wight and Hampshire. He tried to wipe them out and replace them with his own people. But even though he was harsh, the Jutes weren't completely defeated. They held on and stayed in their new homes. The Jutes also brought their own culture with them. In East Kent and the Isle of Wight, people have found jewelry, weapons, and other items that look a lot like things from France and nearby areas. This shows they kept ties with the mainland. One really important moment came around the year 580, when a princess named Bertha came from Francia to marry King Ethelbert of Kent. Bertha was already a Christian and brought a bishop with her. Because of her, a Roman church in Canterbury was fixed up and used again. This helped set the stage for a major change. In 597, Pope Gregory sent a man named Augustine to spread Christianity in England. Thanks to Bertha, King Ethelbert welcomed him, and that's when many people in southern England started becoming Christian. Even today, historians don't all agree on where the Jutes really came from. Some say they were related to the Geats of Sweden, the same group mentioned in the story of Beowulf. Others think they were more like the Frisians from the Netherlands area. There's even a chance the Jutes and Frisians were the same people, just known by different names. Back then, names and group identities changed a lot depending on who was writing things down. Even now we can still find signs of the Jutes in England. The way they buried their dead, the places where they lived, and the laws they followed all tell us a lot about who they were. In some areas like the Meon Valley, place names still hint at their Jutish roots. Some even believe that farming and building styles in places like Sussex were influenced by Jutes who settled there early on. So the next time you find yourself walking through Canterbury, driving along the roads of Hampshire, or visiting the peaceful beaches of the Isle of Wight, remember the Jutes. These were brave, smart, and determined people who took a risky journey across the sea and built new lives. They may not be as famous as the Romans, Vikings, or Normans, but their story is just as cool and just as important in the history of England.